Giveaway for the NewTek Connect Pro. Paul, I think I said that completely wrong. Can you help me
No,
out
that's
here?
right. The NewTek Connect Pro App.
Thank you.
No, Tess, you're completely right. Tess is learning some of this stuff.
I'm a rookie.
As of so many other people are learning about this stuff for the first time. One of the things I wanted to just briefly show guys is that there's about 2 minutes left, and we've got a record number of 364 entries.
It's a big one.
Wow. So we'll be pulling that up in a moment. Can you, I guess, Tess, you want to just read off some of these crazy chat room questions we have?
Recognizing they caught us whispering because we decided at the last minute I was going to talk about the giveaway, and I was like, wait, what? So that was just me and Paul bantering. We've got a lot of comments here. I love Tom Sinclair's. NDI fixed breakfast for me this morning. That's a good one. Oh, my
goodness. That's hilarious.
Okay, Giuseppe says, and yesterday I heard about a new software from Sienna called NDI Outlet that converts from NDI to HD-SDI using a Blackmagic design output device.
Yeah, that's for the macro users, I believe.
Okay.
It basically, if I understand, I just got the email on that, so I haven't researched it a lot yet, but I believe that's kind of like NDI Connect Pro, but it runs on the Mac. So you can generate an NDI stream from a Blackmagic card and output it from the Mac. And I'm kind of talking out of turn here because I haven't researched. I'm not a Mac guy, so I don't know a lot about it, but I know enough to be dangerous. So the Mac guys might be able to better expand on that.
Well, I think we've got about 60 seconds until the giveaway, so I'll ask you, Jim. It looks like in the chat room, Daniel Tremblay is saying he doesn't think cropping in vMix will create NDI outputs. Is anyone, so from what I understand, vMix can take anything and make it NDI. Can you make all of your video inputs output NDI outputs? Because if you can,
on a TriCaster you can. Every output is an output, and I believe so in vMix too. But in order to process the video, I believe that's going to become one of your. I forget how many outputs Martin gives you NDI outputs in vMix.
Is
it 2? One of the vMix guys probably knows, but you could probably do it that way. But the individual outputs, you may be right. And NDI is resolution dependent, so it would output a 4K signal, but you may not be able to read it into something that isn't 4K. Like I may not be able to take that output and feed it into a TriCaster.
But I see what you're saying.
One of the vMix guys might know better on that. Like I said, vMix is not my forte. I just started playing with it, so. But it's an interesting. I did see somebody doing something like that with a 4K camera, but I'm not sure exactly what. I think they might have been taking outputs. And does anybody know how many outputs you get off of vMix?
I know at least one. Let me do a quick.
Let's see what we have from the.
Let's see if someone in the chat here. So you can.
One camera.
You can take
one output.
You can take all externals. You can take all cameras.
Right.
So if you were then the question is, can you take a 4K camera, create 4 virtual inputs? And I don't know if those would go or not. We'll have to do a test.
That might be a good. That might be a good feature request to send to Martin.
Definitely. Let me.
That would be real powerful. If you could do that.
All right, so I'm going to draw the winner. Woo! I'm going to draw the winner for the NewTek Connect Pro app, and then they have to be here. Is John Marzarek here?
John Mazurek, I think.
John Mazurek. So we'll give him a moment to get here, if he is here. And if he's not here, then we'll just draw another winner. Sorry about that, Jim. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. You know, like I said, that would be definitely a very, very powerful feature you could add to vMix if you could do that. I think you could probably do it with the net because you could set up the multi-views to do kind of what I'm talking about, I think, and then send them as 2 outputs. But again, I don't know how many outputs you can put out of vMix. It would probably be limited by that. But it would be a cool feature request, and Martin's a smart guy. I'm sure he could figure out how to make it work.
Tom Sinclair says vMix has 2 external outputs. With 4K edition or higher. One cropped camera input can become an NDI source using external 2. We're getting lots of chats here.
Oh, yeah. So you can't. But there's also a button in the NDI
John Mazurek is here.
That I'm looking at here that allows you to do cameras. Like all like here. I'll just show it right here. See this NDI You're probably seeing that on your return video.
Right.
So you can have recordings, external and output. You can have external too, which is what Tom's referring to.
Right, yeah.
And then it looks like all cameras. Just has there's a checkbox for cameras.
Somebody might check this though, but I think that if you output a camera directly, which I'm pretty sure you can do, then it's going to be output at its resolution. So if it's a 4K camera, it's going to be a 4K NDI stream. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then whatever you're sending the NDI stream to has to be able to deal with that. And I can say for sure that I don't believe TriCaster can. I might be wrong, but probably to another vMix system you could, because vMix does support 4K.
Okay, so Jonathan is here. So Jonathan, you won the NewTek Connect Pro app. Michael, you won a set of free PTZOptics virtual sets, or a set of our premium virtual sets.
Jim, we're getting a lot of questions about churches, NewTek products. Right. Which one would be good for churches?
Well, it depends on what you want to do in the church.
Okay.
One of the popular things to do in churches, well, streaming is one application. But the other one that we've done quite a few installs in is what we call IMAG, or image magnification, which is where you put monitors up in the sanctuary. The problem with that is you got to really pay attention to latency. Right. And latency is the delay between the camera seeing something and it being displayed on the monitor. And everything in the production chain will add latency to the signal. So you got to be real careful with the projectors you're using, real careful with the cameras you're using, and the production switcher. Most production switchers, at least the higher end production switchers like a TriCaster or the broadcast picks, are probably with Genlock sources are probably about 2 frames, which is pretty about as much as good as you're going to get. But when you add in latency the camera may induce, or latency the projectors are usually the biggest offender we found. The other thing I've found is keeping everything, it seems like 720p is keeping progressive 720p seems to minimize that effect. As far as which TriCaster, any of the TriCasters you can Genlock, and on the 410 and the 8000, if you Genlock the cameras, you can also turn off the frame synchronizers, which will eliminate almost 1 frame of latency. So if they're really picky, you got to have cameras you can Genlock, you have to have a switcher you can Genlock, and you have to have a time-based generator to do all that. And probably the next question you're going to get in the chat is, what is Genlock? Is anybody asking that question yet?
Not quite yet.
Well, I'll go ahead and explain it because I'm sure the question. Genlock is basically what we call timing signals, or house timing. So we can take our switcher, our cameras, everything in the production chain, and time it together. So they're no longer free running. Most switchers, you bring the video in from the cameras, it's free running. The cameras, where the production switcher needs to lock onto it. It usually takes about a frame of video to do, and then from then on out, pretty much everything stays in time. But if we really want to minimize that latency, if we can Genlock everything, we can minimize that at least 1 frame of latency in the whole signal chain.
Very interesting.
The other app would be the live production and streaming, and anything that really, whatever customer's comfortable with, you're used to using, is probably the best choice for them. It's not quite as critical, but what we're finding is a lot of our church customers want to do both. So if they want to do both, they got to be kind of, and they're, the worst, as an integrator, the worst thing I want to do is walk into a situation where I have the pastor yelling and screaming at me because their monitors have the Japanese monster movie effect. You got maybe 5 or 10 frames. Usually 4 to 5 frames of latency becomes pretty obvious.
Yeah, we struggle with that just in our live shows, so we all feel the pain of latency.
It's not so bad when you're doing something like what we're doing, but when you're doing it live in a sanctuary and the audience is in the same room as the monitors and the cameras, once it becomes over 5 to 10 frames, it becomes really annoying.
Right.
And
we're getting people say it's a sin.
Yeah.
It's a fun little pun there.
That is funny. Jim, I got a quick video for you, and what you were saying kind of reminds me of constant bit rate versus variable bit rate.
Okay.
Something that Tom Sinclair was doing. I think they were trying to stream off of multiple PTZOptics cameras, and there was problems with the latency between both of those because they were on variable bitrate streaming,
right?
Which actually, as bandwidth changes on the network, can actually lose sync. But if you do constant bitrate streaming, they stay in sync much better. But can you explain this video we have here, Jim, where you are actually showing the NDI latency between, and I think you even have like this this setup here. Can you explain this?
So what I did was I took a camera, ran it through an SDI distribution amplifier, so I basically had the same reference video going to the two NDI Connect boxes and the TriCaster. Then I built that video you just showed in as an ME or one of the mix effects buses to kind of demonstrate how much of a delay was being generated by sending the video over the network versus coming directly in locally. And as you can see, NDI is really good. You can see that we're seeing very little, if any. In fact, in that test, there wasn't any, and typically I was seeing anywhere from nothing to 1 at the most 2 frames of latency. And there's something else I want to show you guys too, if you want to bring back me live.
Yeah.
So if you can go full screen for a second, I want to show you, because I was kind of messing around with this. So what we're seeing here is your PTZOptics camera coming in SDI on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, I'm coming out an RSTP stream. Is that right?
Yes.
RSTP streams. That one right there. So RSTP port 554. And as you can see, it's probably about 2 frames of latency there. I'm very impressed with that, because typically when you do something like an RTMP stream, when I did the same test using, I think it was a standard edition TriCaster, and coming in using the net input so I could bring in an RTMP stream, it was a good almost a second of latency compared to what we're seeing here. So, and the way I'm doing this is I'm bringing the PTZOptics camera network feed in through NDI Connect Pro. And
can you show us that app?
Yeah. Hold on a second. So let me bring up this this input right here, and I'm gonna have to move for a second. So,
sorry, Jim. We got to show everybody this.
No, that's okay, because this computer's on the other side of the room, so I got to kind of move over here real quick.
What would you say our latency is?
The camera. No, go ahead, Paul.
No, Jim. I'd like to hear from you.
Sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
No, my testing on now. You got to remember, this is the one I have here is a Gen 1 camera.
Okay, and there has been a few changes.
Yeah, so I don't know what it is on the Gen 2 camera, but on the Gen 1 camera, as close as I can tell, from the camera head to the output, SDI output's about 3 frames of latency.
Okay.
And I think I talked to Andy about that, and he kind of confirmed that.
Yeah.
But if we look at, let me find it here. Oops, wrong button. So if you look here, can you see the NDI Connect Pro screen now?
Yes, I can.
So we're down here. I'm going to open up this menu.
Stuff.
Okay. And I'm going to open this up, and you see where it says Add IP Camera right here? Open that up. Okay. And then I've already set up your camera, but if I want to add another camera, then you see I have the options right here. PTZOptics, I select it. I enter the IP address. The port number is already populated for me, and voila, it's working. So it's, again, NewTek makes things really easy for you.
Yeah.
But
and
once
you quote unquote the way to make the camera an NDI camera, right?
Basically, that's what, one of your competitors was bragging about, and I'm not going to say who, but one of your competitors was bragging about being an NDI-enabled camera, and this is how they were doing it. So take it with a grain of salt. Nobody's come out that I know of yet with a truly NDI camera or NDI integrated camera. I think, actually, didn't Tom Sinclair do a video about the other manufacturer I'm talking about?
I think he did, yeah.
I think he did so
yeah, I think I saw he did that. He kind of called him on it, which I would have too, but he beat me to it. But anyhow, now that I'm thinking about this, one other thing that's coming out, it's not out yet. I was hoping to have one for this web show, but when I get one, maybe we'll do another show for that. Paul and I talked about this. It's a product called BirdDog.
Yes.
So this is very, very cool. So what the BirdDog, if you want to look up this, it's birddog.tv, I believe is the URL. They have a website, an Australian company. So what this is it's kind of like a Blackmagic mini converter, or it's a little box that's basically a NDI interface. So you take this little box, hook it to your network, hook a camera into it, and you've got an NDI output. And I think it's bi-directional, so you can also send an NDI feed back to it.
Is this it?
So,
no.
No. You go. I think it's birddog.tv.
BirdDog. Bird. BIRDDOG.tv.
Yeah, try that.
Is it birddog.com?
Oh, geez. Hold on a sec. Let me find it.
How many BirdDogs are there?
Apparently, there's a lot.
But, yeah. And one of the reasons why we wanted to show that is because if you had a BirdDog and a PTZOptics camera, you would essentially have the ultimate NDI connection. And one of the benefits of that is not just the fact that you can make the PTZOptics NDI compatible, or at least the video feed from it. It's got a loop through, and I believe you can do HDMI or HD-SDI.
Right, that's correct.
And technically, you could put the BirdDog in your network rack, so you wouldn't actually have to run Ethernet cable. You could just run SDI cable, which I guess, what do they say? 2 dozen here, half dozen the other.
Yeah.
1 dozen here, half dozen the other.
I completely just lost.
Okay, it's bird-dog.tv.
Bird-dog.tv.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
So, it's I've got one of the first ones coming in to beta test. So when I get one in, I'll give you a report on what I think of it. But you're right. I believe the box is going to be $900.
Here it is.
There it is, $895. Right. So you can see what it is.
Everyone in the chat's helping us too.
They're having.
What's that?
They sent us the link a bunch of
they sent us the link a million times.
Awesome.
Everyone.
Awesome. Yeah.
Very nice.
So we're anxiously awaiting our evaluation unit in to play with this, because this is exciting stuff. Or even using it with the PTZOptics cameras, or the NDI, just a standard camera. If I need to do a camera feed, say, here. And by the way, here's another really cool option that we've been playing with, because I had a customer call me up and say, "Okay, I'm doing car races, but some of my cameras are going to be half a mile away, and I need to get that video back into the control room. How do I do that?" Well, they're Ubiquity Networks. I don't know if people know who they are. They make these back channel radios, and they basically give you, according to the manufacturer, the spec is 15 kilometers. If you can get line of sight, which means they got to see each other. Well, for my application, half a mile line of sight is just tall ladder. I can get it. But it's a gigabit wireless bridge. So according to them, up to 15 kilometers, a gigabit wireless bridge. Now with a gigabit, I could probably do 3, 4, maybe 5 NDI streams. So I could set that remote system up, put a radio in that end, put a radio on this end, and wirelessly bring several NDI feeds from that remote location. We've actually tested that with the lower end system they have that's called NanoBeam. And NanoBeam is kind of the same, but it's only about 450 megabits per second. So realistically, I might be able to get 2, maybe 3 NDI streams across that. In the shop, with the receivers 10 feet apart, no problem. But I'm waiting for the weather to get better here in central Pennsylvania to go out and set it up, try to do half a mile away and see what kind of results we get. Because I'm sure that the distance will have an effect on the bandwidth and whatnot you'll be able to do. But the idea, the prospect of this is really exciting, because the ability to deal with, even like if you're doing a baseball game and you want to do those center field back cameras and whatnot, running SDI cable 500-600 feet becomes a problem. The 1080i, I think RG59 at 1080i is limited to about 364 feet, if I remember the chart right. So we could go fiber. I mean, Blackmagic makes those fiber boxes. You could do it that way. There's different ways of doing it, but this would be a much less expensive way to do it. And there's some IP-based intercom systems out there now that you could also run over the same IP network. So just the idea, the thinking out of the box now is become almost commonplace for me, and my brain starts exploding every time I start thinking about these things. Oh, by the way, in the comment section, if anybody knows, and I would be interested in this, if anybody knows of a IP-based intercom system, I'd be interested. If you want to send me an email or something, there's one from Clearcom. Like I said, Go Green Digital has one. It's kind of expensive. But what I was looking for was an IP-based intercom that would just use the sound cards and computers to build an intercom system point to point, something like that. But if anybody out there in your audience knows of anything like that, I'd be really interested in hearing about it. So, and this stuff, we could go on for hours, my friend. I mean, there's so many things we can do with this stuff now that
well, I know. I totally agree. And that's kind of why we do a 20-minute show and then a 20-minute post show, because it's like we got to recap. You know what I mean? Like we gotta digest some of this information.
Exactly. We got a lot going on in the
and
chat.
come back. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show, Jim. I would love to have you again when that BirdDog comes out. Let's have you on the show again. Maybe we can get BirdDog to give one of these away to one of our viewers. I think the live giveaways made me so happy. So many great people have been able to win great stuff, and I hope that Jonathan loves his NewTek Connect Pro app. And Michael, I hope you like the virtual sets if you're into that. I think that our real set over here is way cooler than any virtual set. What do you think about that, Jim? If a last question for you. Are you a virtual set guy or a real set kind of guy?
Depends on what I'm doing. I mean, now when you talk about virtual sets, there's different levels of virtual sets. So my idea of a virtual set is a little bit different, and maybe we'll do a show on that sometime. But the virtual sets that we do in the TriCaster and Advanced Edition are unique. There's some things you can do in those, like parallax effect and perspective, that are unique to what NewTek does compared to everybody else's virtual set, that get me real excited. There was one other thing that I can't. It's slipping my mind now that I wanted to mention. But oh, and by the way, our winner of the NDI Connect Pro, do you have them? They have my information, right? So if they have any questions,
give them. What's your information, Jim? Let's let everyone know how to get in touch with you.
Well, the website is DVS Direct, DVSDirect.com, and my email is sales@dvsdirect.com. Real easy to remember. And he's more than welcome if he has questions to pop me an email or something if he's trying to figure out how to make it work. It's really the key about NDI Connect is do not underpower the machine you run it on. The machines that I'm running NDI Connect on are the same hardware spec as a TriCaster. So I think it's an i7-4790 processor with 8 gigabytes of RAM in it. Do not underpower the machine you're running NDI Connect on.
Words of wisdom from Jim Davis. All right, well, thank you so much, Jim. We gotta wrap this show up. Awesome. It's been a really fun show. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. There's a lot of people in the chat that wanted to reach out and say thank you.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, you gave us
We appreciate your participation in the chat room and can't wait to host our next informative Q&A session. Your questions drive the conversation forward for live streaming professionals around the world. Until next time, happy streaming.
Yes, I can't. Slice and dice it, maybe.
Right.
Are you streaming this right to YouTube Live?
Yeah, and we use the recording.
Mm-hmm.